About 32 years before the Battle of Yavin, the Trade Federation had established a blockade around the planet of Naboo, by the orders of the Sith Lord Darth Sidious. Supreme Chancellor Valorum of the Republic dispatched 2 Jedi Knights to meet with Viceroy Gunray of the Trade Federation. The Federation turned on the Jedi and chased them down to the surface. The Federation began to invade the planet. However, the Jedi were able to escape with Queen Amidala. They made a stop on Tatooine, where they met a slave boy, Anakin Skywalker, who was strong with the Force. They made a wager with a local junk dealer over a pod race that resulted in them getting the parts they needed and Anakin's freedom, leaving his mother behind. They went to the Senate on Coruscant to plead for help, but were unsuccessful. Senator Palpatine took advantage of the situation to throw Valorum out and have him elected as the new Chancellor. The Queen and the Jedi returned to Naboo. The Queen teamed up with the local race of Gungans to take back the planet. Meanwhile, the Jedi fought Sidious's apprentice Darth Maul. Qui-Gon was killed, but young Obi-Wan Kenobi cut Maul in half, and honoring his master's dying wish, he pledged to train Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One. 10 years later, a former Jedi named Count Dooku led a separatist movement from the Galactic Republic, drawing the galaxy closer to war. Padme Amidala was no longer a queen, but now a senator. Heading back to Coruscant to vote on creating an army, she was targeted for assassination. A grown Anakin Skywalker was tasked with protecting her, and the two went in hiding on Naboo, where they began to fall in love. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan began to track down the assassin and discovered a planet of cloners who had created a clone army for the Republic. The clones were based off of bounty hunter Jango Fett. Kenobi tracked Fett and his son Boba to Geonosis, where he was captured by Dooku and other leaders of the Separatist Council. Coruscant learned of this and debated an attack, leading Representative Jar Jar Binks to propose giving Chancellor Palpatine emergency powers to create an army. Meanwhile, Anakin, who was plagued by dreams of his mother's death, traveled to Tatooine with Padme to find his mother. He met his stepfamily that had freed his mother from slavery, but discovered she was kidnapped by Tusken Raiders. Anakin found her and she died in his arms, leading Anakin to slaughter the Tuskens out of anger. They then went to aid Obi-Wan but were captured in the process. Anakin and Padme then declared their love for each other. Before Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Padme could be executed, Mace Windu showed up with 200 Jedi Knights to save them. The battle ensued, but Yoda arrived with the clone army to save them. Anakin and Obi-Wan dueled Dooku, resulting in Anakin losing his arm and Dooku escaping. Anakin and Padme married in secret, but nevertheless begun the Clone War had. About 4 months into the war, Anakin, who was now a Jedi Knight, and Obi-Wan were stuck in battle on the planet Christophsis. They were given reinforcements, including a young Padawan named Ahsoka Tano, who was assigned to Anakin. The two took on a mission to rescue crime lord Jabba the Hutt's son, and learned mutual respect for each other. They began to fight together in numerous battles like Ryloth, Felucia, and the Second Battle of Geonosis, where she learned many tough lessons. They would frequently run into separatist pundits like General Grievous and Asajj Ventress, or deal with other enemies like bounty hunter Cad Bane and pirate Hondo Ohnaka. About a year into the war, civil war began to brew on the planet Mandalore. A terrorist group known as the Death Watch began to attack the peaceful world, wanting to restore their warrior ways. Obi-Wan was sent to protect the Duchess Satine, someone he had once harbored feelings for as a Padawan. A young Boba Fett also emerged, seeking vengeance on Mace Windu for killing his father on Geonosis. Darth Sidious later grew skeptical of Dooku's loyalty to him, and commanded he execute Asajj Ventress. Ventress escaped to her homeworld of Dathomir and sought refuge amongst the witches. They planned to exact revenge against Dooku and used a local Zabrak named Savage Opress to help. Savage went rogue and went in search of his brother Darth Maul, who survived the Battle of Naboo. 3 mystical Force wielders lured Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka to a planet called Mortis, where they tested Anakin to prove he was the Chosen One. Anakin and Obi-Wan undertook a mission to the Citadel prison, where Anakin met Captain Tarkin. Ahsoka was also captured by Trandoshan hunters at one point, and through her skills and courage, teamed up with other younglings and the Wookiee Chewbacca to fight back and escape. Clone Captain Rex, Anakin's second-in-command, was temporarily assigned to General Krell to retake Umbara. Krell undercut the clones at every opportunity possible and attempted to turn them against one another. Rex uncovered Krell as a separatist traitor and captured him, leading to one of the clones executing him. Savage continued his search and later found his brother Maul on a junk planet Lotho Minor. He brought him to the witches and had his legs repaired so the two could hunt down Obi-Wan Kenobi. During a rematch, Kenobi teamed up with Asajj Ventress and the two fled and survived. Maul continued hunting Kenobi but was left for dead again, drifting in space after attempting to recruit pirates. Civil war brewed on Onderon, and the Jedi intervened to help train the Resistance to push back against the Separatists. The leader Stila Guerrera was killed, leaving her brother Saw to carry on. Maul was later found by the Death Watch, and they recruited him to help overthrow Mandalore. The leader Pre Vizsla turned on Maul after victory, but Maul challenged him to single combat and then became the new ruler of Mandalore. He used Satine to lure Kenobi to the planet, where he killed Satine in front of Kenobi to exact his revenge. Death Watch loyalists led by Satine's sister Bo-Katan helped Kenobi escape. Unfortunately, Darth Sidious arrived to deal with his old apprentice and killed Savage, capturing Maul, who later escaped. After a bombing at the Jedi Temple, Ahsoka was framed for the crime. On the run to prove her innocence, she temporarily teamed up with Asajj Ventress while Anakin tried to learn the truth. Tano was captured, expelled from the Order, and put on trial. Anakin discovered her friend Barriss Offee was the true traitor, and Ahsoka was welcomed back to the Order. But Ahsoka lost her faith in the Jedi, and she refused, walking away. A clone trooper named Tup later turned on his Jedi general and gunned her down after some sort of breakdown. ARC Trooper 5s attempted to learn the truth, and discovered an inhibitor chip inside every clone trooper, which the Kaminoans had worked with Dooku and the Chancellor to implement. These chips were intended to make the clones gun down the Jedi. Before he could get the truth out to Anakin and Rex, Fives was gunned down and died in Rex's arms. A skirmish with the Banking Clan and an old friend of Padme's named Rush Clovis broke out, which resulted in strain and tension between Anakin and Padme, and the Banks became under Palpatine's control. After researching more into the death of Sifo Dyas, the Jedi learned that Dooku actually created the clone army for the Republic. Upon meditation, Yoda heard Qui-Gon Jinn, who had learned how to become a Force ghost and live after death. Qui-Gon knew Yoda would be needed, and sent him on a journey to learn this power, where Yoda discovered that the war was meant to be lost, but that in the end they will prevail from another Skywalker. Ahsoka continued her post-Jedi life, getting caught up with the Martez sisters, which led her to being recruited by Bo-Katan to help fight Maul. Towards the final days of the war, Anakin and Obi-Wan came into contact with Ahsoka again, who wanted their help in capturing Darth Maul on Mandalore. Unfortunately, Grievous attacked Coruscant and kidnapped the Chancellor. Anakin and Obi-Wan went to rescue the Chancellor, while Rex was sent with Ahsoka to capture Maul. Anakin and Obi-Wan boarded Grievous's ship and killed Count Dooku, rescuing Palpatine. Meanwhile, Ahsoka led the siege of Mandalore and began to capture several parts of the city. Anakin reunited with Padme after months of being apart and learned that she was pregnant. Anakin was also given a seat on the Council and tasked with spying on the Chancellor, whom the Council had grown wary of. After learning the location of General Grievous, Obi-Wan was sent to hunt him down. Ahsoka dueled Maul on Mandalore, and he was captured along with most of his Mandalorian forces. Ahsoka then departed for Coruscant, leaving Bo-Katan in charge of Mandalore. Kenobi successfully tracked down and killed Grievous, bringing the war closer to an end. Palpatine used this opportunity to reveal himself to Anakin as the Sith Lord Darth Sidious. He offered Anakin a place at his side. Anakin told Mace Windu, who went to confront Sidious. After losing to Windu, Sidious pleaded to Anakin to intervene on his behalf, and Anakin did, causing Mace to die. Anakin then pledged himself to Sidious and is renamed Darth Vader. Vader then led a march on the Jedi Temple and murdered everyone inside. Sidious issued Order 66 to the clones, which caused them to turn on their Jedi generals. Many were killed, though those such as Obi-Wan, Yoda, and a young Caleb Doom, the future Kanan Jarrus, were able to survive. Ahsoka was able to remove Rex's inhibitor chip, and the two were able to escape and go into hiding, which also resulted in Maul also escaping. Sidious sent Vader to Mustafar, where he slaughtered the Separatist Council. While Sidious addressed the Senate and declared himself Emperor, Yoda and Kenobi returned to the temple with the help of Bail Organa, where they learned Anakin fell to the dark side and became Darth Vader. Yoda went to confront Sidious, while Kenobi stowed away with Padme to find Vader. Yoda lost his duel with Sidious and escaped with Organa's help. After lashing out at Padme, Vader dueled Kenobi, which resulted in Kenobi severing Vader's left arm and legs, leaving him to die along the lava banks. Kenobi met with Yoda and Organa and took Padme to medical assistance. She had lost the will to live, but was able to give birth to her twins Luke and Leia. Meanwhile, Sidious rescued Vader and brought him to medical assistance on Coruscant. He was placed in a life-preserving suit, and Sidious told him Padme was killed. Padme was given a funeral on Naboo, and Organa adopted Leia, while Kenobi took Luke to his family on Tatooine. Yoda went into hiding on Dagobah. Sidious and Vader began to oversee construction of the Death Star. 9 years later, a young smuggler named Han Solo was taken into Imperial service. After deserting the Empire with the help of Chewbacca, he wound up on a job with Tobias Beckett to acquire coaxium for Crimson Dawn's leader, Dryden Voss. Han reunited with his old lover Kira from Corellia. They hired the pilot Lando Calrissian and his ship the Millennium Falcon to complete the job. They were able to narrowly escape the planet Kessel with the coaxium and make the Kessel run in 12 parsecs. Members of the early rebellion caught up with Solo and Beckett and demanded the coaxium. Solo attempted to betray Dryden, but Beckett turned on him. In a shootout, Solo prevailed but was abandoned by Kira, who went to work with Crimson Dawn's true leader, Maul. Solo and Chewbacca tracked down Calrissian and won the Falcon from him in a game of sabacc. 5 years later, the Empire began to crack down on the planet Lothal, where they were meeting continual resistance from the crew of the Ghost led by the Jedi Padawan Kanan Jarrus. The crew met a boy from Lothal named Ezra Bridger, who was strong with the Force. Kanan offered to train Ezra, and he was accepted into the crew. They went on several missions together and frequently ran into Imperial forces led by Agent Kallus and the Grand Inquisitor. They also worked with rebel agents like Senator Organa and the mysterious Fulcrum. They also ran into a smuggler named Lando Calrissian at one point. On one of these missions, Kanan was captured by the Inquisitor and Grand Moff Tarkin. After brief interrogation, he was taken to orbit above Mustafar for further questioning. The rebels infiltrated Tarkin's ship and Ezra rescued Kanan. The two dueled the Inquisitor, resulting in his death. The rebels escaped with the help of Organa's men and Fulcrum, who was revealed to be Ahsoka Tano. Because of the growing rebel movement, the Emperor sent Vader to hunt down the rebels. After breaking apart the rebel fleet, Vader made a connection with Ahsoka, realizing his old Padawan was still alive. The rebels escaped, and Sidious urged Vader to remain patient and send more Inquisitors. Ahsoka sent the rebels to recruit old allies, clones led by Captain Rex. Rex joined the early rebellion and fought with the Ghost crew on many missions. Kanan was wary of the clones, but after a joint mission to rescue Ezra, he and the captain began to have a mutual respect for one another. At one point, the rebels hid on Gorel, but were discovered and fled. The crew worked with Leia Organa to gain more ships for the fleet. During a trip to Geonosis, Kallus and Zeb got stranded on the planet's ice moon. The two had to work together to survive until they were individually rescued. This encounter caused Kallus to reconsider his allegiance. After a duel with the Inquisitors, Kanan, Ezra, and Ahsoka went to the temple on Lothal, where they each received visions from Master Yoda. Kanan was made a Jedi Knight, Ahsoka learned the truth about who Vader was, and Ezra received instruction to journey to Malachor. After helping the rebels to establish a base on Atollon, the three went to Malachor, where they found more Inquisitors. Ezra was separated and found a stranded Maul, who helped him to find a Sith holocron. The four temporarily worked together and defeated the Inquisitors. After goading Ezra to use the dark side and tricking him into activating the Sith Temple, Maul turned on the Jedi and blinded Kanan. He escaped Malachor, while Vader arrived and dueled Ahsoka. Ahsoka sacrificed herself to let Kanan and Ezra escape, who began to take a turn to the dark side. After months of isolation, Kanan emerged with the help of Bendu to correct Ezra's path. Meanwhile, Tarkin sent Grand Admiral Thrawn to deal with the rebels. Maul re-emerged to use the holocrons to hunt down an old enemy, sending him and Ezra on a new trajectory. During a mission to Lothal, the rebels learned of a new fighter being developed with the help of a mole, Agent Kallus. The rebels also took a trip to Geonosis with Saw Gerrera, and learned that the population was wiped out to keep an Imperial project secret. Sabine Wren acquired the Darksaber from an encounter with Maul, and began to train with it and returned to her family. She overthrew the Mandalorian leader Gar Saxon, and the Civil War began to break out on Mandalore. Hera helped rebellion leader Mon Mothma, while Maul began to track down Obi-Wan Kenobi. He tracked him to Tatooine, where Kenobi killed him once and for all. He then continued to watch after Luke Skywalker. Thrawn began to notice the presence of a mole and discovered Kallus was the rebel spy. He used Kallus to find the rebel base and attack the planet. The rebels took many losses, and only a few escaped. Kanan and Ezra went to help Sabine on Mandalore, and they teamed up with Bo-Katan to target Imperial leadership. Bo-Katan took the Darksaber and united her people to lead them against the Empire. Ezra and Sabine helped Saw Gerrera on a mission to learn more about the Imperial project and discovered the Empire was weaponizing kyber crystals. Ezra and the Ghost Crew returned to Lothal by Mon Mothma's orders to learn about the Imperial factory and new fighter. The rebels launched an attack on the factory which failed, leading to Hera's capture. Kanan rescued her, but sacrificed himself to save Hera and his friends. Devastated by the loss, the rebels searched for new resolve, leading them to the Lothal Temple. Ezra discovered the world between worlds and was able to intervene and save Ahsoka from her duel with Vader. Sidious sought entry to the world, but Ezra was able to escape before Sidious could gain access. Ezra gathered many allies together in an attempt to liberate Lothal. They captured Governor Price and planned to use her to infiltrate and launch the Imperial Dome. Thrawn interfered and captured Ezra. Ezra used the help of the Purrgil to take Thrawn's forces from Lothal, and the two jumped into hyperspace into the unknown. The rebels successfully destroyed the Imperial Dome and freed the planet. Weeks later, the rebellion continued to take interest in the Imperial superweapon project. They sent Captain Cassian Andor to find Jyn Erso, daughter of an Imperial scientist Galen Erso, and the friend of Saw Gerrera. Gerrera had recently received contact from an Imperial defector sent by Galen Erso to reveal the Empire's weapon, the Death Star. The Death Star's overseers, Director Krennic and Governor Tarkin, tested an initial single reactor, firing off the Death Star on Jedha City, which killed Saw Gerrera. Krennic suspected Erso's betrayal and arrived to have him killed. However, Erso revealed to Jyn that he had placed a weakness in the Death Star. Jyn and Cassian infiltrated the Imperial Vault on Scarif to capture the Death Star plans. The first major battle of the Galactic Civil War began, and the rebels won their first major victory and captured the plans. Krennic was defeated, but the entire team of Rogue One gave their lives to capture the plans. After a close encounter with Vader, the plans ended up in the hands of Leia Organa, who was sent by her adopted father Bail Organa to find Obi-Wan Kenobi on Tatooine. Vader caught up to Leia's ship and captured the princess, but Leia had already sent her droids C-3PO and R2-D2 down to the surface with the plans. The droids got captured by Jawas and sold to the Lars family and Luke Skywalker. R2 escaped constraint and went looking for Kenobi. Luke tracked him down and met Obi-Wan Kenobi. Kenobi began to tell Luke about the Force in the Clone Wars. Kenobi told Luke that his father was betrayed and murdered by the Sith Lord Darth Vader. Luke refused to help Kenobi save Leia, but after discovering Imperial troops had murdered his aunt and uncle, he agreed to go with Kenobi. They recruited Han Solo and Chewbacca to fly them to Alderaan. Meanwhile, with the Imperials unsuccessfully interrogating Leia, Tarkin and Vader decided to test the power of the Death Star and destroy the planet Alderaan. Luke, Han, Chewie, and Obi-Wan arrived on the Death Star, where Luke and Han were able to rescue the princess. Kenobi faced Vader for the first time in 19 years. Seeing Luke and Leia attempting to escape, Kenobi sacrificed himself, allowing Vader to kill him so Skywalker and Organa could escape. The rebels got the plans back to the rebel base, but they were tracked by Tarkin. The rebels launched an assault on the Death Star that cost the lives of many rebel pilots. Before the Death Star could fire on the base, Luke, guided by Kenobi's Force Ghost, was able to use the Force and destroy the Death Star. Vader was the only survivor. 3 years later, the rebels had established a base on Hoth. Vader was in persistent search of Skywalker, sending probes all over the galaxy. Luke was met by the Force Ghost of Obi-Wan, who told him to find Yoda on Dagobah. Han was preparing to leave to pay off Jabba when they were discovered by the Empire. The Imperials attacked the rebels and forced them on the run. Han, Leia, Chewbacca, and C-3PO were pursued by the Empire, while Luke and R2 went to Dagobah. Luke found Yoda, who was reluctant to train him, but ultimately decided to teach the young Jedi. Vader spoke with the Emperor, and the two conspired to turn Skywalker to the dark side. Han and Leia outran the Empire and began to fall in love. In need of repairs, they went to Cloud City on Bespin, where Han reunited with his old friend Lando Calrissian. Unbeknownst to the rebels, Vader had sent bounty hunters after them, and a now grown Boba Fett tracked Han to Bespin. Meanwhile, on Dagobah, Yoda continued to train Luke. Luke was very similar to his father Anakin, which worried Yoda. Luke began to sense his friends were in danger, and abandoned his training to help his friends, though Yoda and Kenobi urged him otherwise. Lando betrayed his friends on Bespin, and Han was placed in carbonite and shipped off to Jabba the Hutt with Boba Fett. Lando saved Leia and Chewie, and they fought their way back to the Millennium Falcon. Skywalker arrived and fought Vader. Luke was badly outmatched and soon beaten by Vader, losing his hand and weapon. There, Vader offered his hand to Luke. Luke refused, but Vader then revealed the truth, that he was indeed Luke's father. Beaten and with no other option, Luke fell to his fate, where he was saved after making a connection through the Force with Leia. Vader closed in, but the rebels were able to escape. Luke got a new hand, and Lando and Chewbacca set off to Tatooine to track down Fett. 6 months later, C-3PO and R2 infiltrated Jabba's palace and were then captured by the Hutt. Leia infiltrated the palace disguised as a bounty hunter with Chewbacca as her prisoner. Leia attempted to free Han at night, but Jabba had expected this and took everyone prisoner. Luke then forcefully entered Jabba's palace and demanded the freedom of his friends, or threatened his death. Jabba captured Skywalker in his Rancor pit and took he, Solo, and Chewbacca to the Sarlacc pit to be fed. Luke obtained his new lightsaber from inside R2 and attacked Jabba's goons. Boba Fett was thrown into the Sarlacc pit. Everyone escaped and Jabba was killed by Leia, then his ship was destroyed. The rebels headed back to Rebel Command while Luke returned to Dagobah. There he met with Yoda one last time, before Yoda passed on, urging him that he must face Darth Vader again. Yoda told Luke that Vader was his father. Luke was then greeted by Kenobi, who told him the truth about Vader, that his father Anakin was corrupted by the Emperor and fell to the dark side. Luke refused to kill his father, but Kenobi told him that there was no other choice, and that Leia was indeed his sister. The Emperor arrived on the newly built Death Star II, where he and Vader schemed to destroy the rebellion. The rebels learned of the new Death Star and attempted to destroy it. They went to Endor to destroy the shield generator so the fighters could attack it. They met the native Ewoks and recruited their help. Luke told Leia the truth about her father, then went to confront Vader, who took him to Sidious. Sidious desired Luke to give in to his anger. He then revealed that the rebels were heading into a trap, and that the Death Star was operational. The rebels arrived and realized this, and the Battle of Endor began. Luke began to duel Vader. Luke initially resisted the dark side, but Vader then learned the truth about Leia and threatened to turn her to the dark side. Luke lashed out and struck Vader down, preparing to deliver a killing blow. The Emperor urged him on, but Luke refused and stated that he was a Jedi. The Emperor began to strike Luke with Force lightning. Vader, out of love for his son, refused to stand by and picked up the Emperor, sacrificing himself and threw him down a pit, killing him. Vader was mortally wounded, but Anakin had indeed returned and fulfilled the prophecy, destroying the Sith. The rebels destroyed the shield generator, allowing the fighters to proceed. Anakin shared one final conversation with his son, where he then died in Luke's arms. The rebels, led by Lando, were able to fly inside and destroy the Death Star, bringing a swift end to the Empire's reign. Luke burned his father's body, and the rebels celebrated their victory, where they were watched by the Force ghosts of Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Anakin. Around this time, Sabine reflected on the history of the Ghost Crew from Lothal. She had waited the war out on Lothal to protect it from the Empire, but was then greeted by Ahsoka Tano. The two went off into the unknown to search for Ezra Bridger and bring him home. A year later, the last of the Imperial forces had been defeated at the Battle of Jakku, and the war was officially over. 4 years later, a lone Mandalorian mercenary was given a job by the remaining Imperial holdout to hunt down a child named Grogu, who was a member of the same species as Yoda. He was assisted in his hunt by an Ugnaught named Quill. The Mandalorian brought Grogu back to the Imperials in exchange for Beskar, which he forged into a new set of armor. The Beskar was taken from Mandalore during the Great Purge, in which the Empire had retaliated in response to the uprising started by Bo-Katan and Sabine Wren years earlier. The Mandalorian refused to let Grogu be killed by the Imperials and infiltrated their base to take Grogu back. He was assisted by several Mandalorians who lived in hiding. The Mandalorian made new allies like Cara Dune and took on several jobs, including one on Tatooine, but he continued to be hunted by bounty hunters in search of Grogu and lived on the run. He was contacted by the bounty hunter guild chief Greef Karga, who offered him amnesty in exchange for his help to get rid of the Imperials. Karga, Cara Dune, Quill, and the Mandalorian met on Nevarro, but it was a trap, and the trio was cornered by Moff Gideon and his forces. Quill attempted to escape with Grogu, but was gunned down. The Imperials temporarily captured Grogu, but were gunned down by former assassin IG-11. IG-11 went to reinforce the Mandalorian, who was severely injured. They all escaped to the underground sewers and were helped by the Mandalorian armorer. It was revealed that the Mandalorian, aka Din Djarin, was adopted by Death Watch after being saved by him during the Clone Wars. The armorer sent the Mandalorian in search of the Jedi to take Grogu to them. IG-11 sacrificed himself so the others could escape, but Moff Gideon was on the move. Din crashed his fighter, but Gideon survived and pulled out the Darksaber. The Mandalorian went in search of other Mandalorians, and went to Tatooine where there were rumors of one. He met Cobb Vanth, who had acquired armor once belonging to Boba Fett that was retrieved from the Sarlacc pit by Jawas. The Mandalorian made a deal to kill a Krayt Dragon in exchange for the armor. After riding back to his ship, he was watched by Boba Fett, who was revealed to have survived the Sarlacc pit and Jabba's death. The Mandalorian ferried a passenger and her eggs to a planet in exchange for contact with the other Mandalorians. After barely arriving and reuniting the passenger with her husband, the Mandalorian was met by Bo-Katan Kryze, who had survived the Purge. They teamed up to take down an Imperial ship, and Bo-Katan sent the Mandalorian in search of Ahsoka Tano. The Mandalorian made a quick pit stop on Nevarro, where he helped Cara Dune and Greef Karga take down Moff Gideon's base. The Mandalorian then traveled to Corvus, where he met Ahsoka Tano. The Mandalorian helped Tano take down a former Imperial who was working for Grand Admiral Thrawn. Tano told the Mandalorian the history of Grogu, and sent the Mandalorian to an old Jedi temple on Tython to let Grogu choose his own path to be trained as a Jedi, or remain with Din Djarin. The Mandalorian arrived on Tython, but was tracked down by Boba Fett, who wanted his armor back. The Imperials showed up, and Boba Fett helped the Mandalorian fight the Stormtroopers. Gideon arrived and destroyed the Razor Crest, and then sent the Dark Troopers in to capture Grogu. Gideon escaped, and Boba Fett pledged to help Din Djarin. They scooped up Cara Dune and went to Spring Mayfeld from a New Republic prison. He helped them get coordinates from Moff Gideon's ship in a mission that ultimately required Din Djarin to remove his helmet briefly. They got the coordinates, and with the help of Bo-Katan, they boarded Gideon's cruiser using Boba Fett as a distraction. Bo-Katan and the crew cleared the ship while Din went for Grogu. Din dueled Moff Gideon and won, capturing him. Everyone reunited on the bridge where the Dark Troopers began to corner them. Luke Skywalker then showed up in his X-Wing and single-handedly took out all the Dark Troopers. He arrived on the bridge and offered to train Grogu. The Mandalorian said his goodbyes, and the two parted ways, with Grogu leaving with Skywalker, and Din staying with Bo-Katan. Boba Fett then traveled to Jabba's palace on Tatooine, where he killed the Major Domo Bib Fortuna, who had also survived the death of Jabba, and he claimed Jabba's palace for his own.